Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and once again, I'm here with Dr. Robert Hoffman with the Anti-Cancer Organization. Welcome back, Robert. It's always a pleasure to sit with you.
Pleasure to be here.
And for once, I've got some good news to share. Well, for twice. This is the second one in a row. So when we last spoke, I had just gotten confirmation that I was going to get the port installed, and we were go for the next day. And that went well. I got the port installed, and Monday, so it's now Thursday today that we're recording this. And Monday, I came into the infusion center at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I met with a nurse practitioner who went over everything that was going to happen. And, you know, I'm working with UCI Medical Center, and they're a teaching hospital, and they've really been great to work with. The people that I've been working with seem to genuinely be concerned. And remember, I walked into there with knowledge and an understanding and a confidence that I know what I'm trying to do and a willingness to do it. And I think that that's changed the tone. I know a lot of people go into these places and they don't feel like anybody hears them or whatnot, but we're communicating well. And this nurse practitioner was very gracious. She listened to everything I had to say. She explained to me what was going to be happening and gave me the go-ahead. Now, remember, I've got this sort of weeping wound coming out of my tumor, and I've been very concerned that was going to keep it from happening. And I've been doing everything I can to, I'm on antibiotics and I'm doing everything I can to keep it cleaned up, but it just wouldn't stop. And this lady, she said, listen, that happens. And I said, thank you. I don't want to stop this. I don't want to slow this down. I want to move forward. And she says, we're going forward. And I think that was the moment where I finally was able to let go and say, okay, we got this. And of course, I was a little concerned. I just had this port installed in me, which is an operation, it's a minor operation as things go, but still they were tunneling around in my chest and they stuck a tube into my vein right next to my heart. I mean, it might be minor to them, but it's not minor to me. And I want to make sure that whoever's handling this is got the care and concern that I need. And this practitioner that set up the IV was beautiful and gracious, and they took a lot of care. This is something that I noticed, and I like to point these things out before we get into our whole discussion, because they're things that I notice as a patient. And the first thing I walk in and sign in, they check, make sure I am who I'm supposed to be and all that. And then they weigh you. And I went in there, it was pretty chilly. I had a pretty heavy jacket on, and I lost all this body weight. So now I get cold pretty easy. And so I was wearing this jacket when they weighed me in, and I didn't think anything about it. And then before I went to get the infusion, she weighed me again. And this time I took the jacket off, and she comes back and she's like, what the heck? How did you lose weight so quickly? I'm like, what do you mean? I says, I've lost 20 pounds in the last 3 months with this diet I'm on, but we already did that. I've maintained. And she says, no, you've lost 4 pounds today. I'm like, no, I took my jacket off. And so she goes, well, let's weigh again. So I went in, took my jacket off, weighed again, and she was fine. And I thought that was amusing, right? But the truth was, she was checking the dosage of my chemotherapy against my current weight. And what happened was, when she did the numbers, she says, well, they calculated this on the weight you came in when you met with the medical oncologist a month and a half ago, and you've lost weight since then. We need to recalibrate your chemotherapy. I says, thank you. They took the care to catch that. And had they not caught it, I would have been hit with a dose higher than I needed, and it may have had side effects I didn't want. And it took another half an hour but they got it. The doctor cleared it. It got reformulated, and we got started. And so initially, she hit the line into my port, and I was like, okay, what's it going to be like? It was a little pinch, nothing, didn't hurt, was no problem. And I says, that's it. Yep, that's it. So she tapes everything off. She says, okay, the first bottle we're putting you on is an anti-nausea medicine and something for anxiety or something. It was two little things to as a precursor. And then the second thing, we're going to hydrate you. And so they gave me IV fluids because one of the drugs can attack the kidney, and it's really important that you have constant hydration while you're on this drug. And then they started in. So they hit me with the docetaxel first, and now this is where you come in, Robert. Remember, they wanted to hit me with chemo and radiation. We ran into problems, get my dental clearance. This thing's continuing to grow. I'm like, we got to come up with something. And you and the group on Sunday came up with the notion that, well, there's a neoadjuvant first-line treatment that we can propose. And if we can get the study to back it up, I should be able to offer that, and they should consider it. And we did that. We came up with a 3-drug combination that had well-published papers of its efficacy for head and neck cancer the way I have it. And I was able to go in there and present that to this woman, and she said, yeah, that makes sense. So they're following a protocol that I gave to them through this group that we're working with, through you and your research, and in seeking the truth. And I'm so proud of that. It's such the fact that we were able to do this in a way that is not me being subversive or combative, or I'm just trying to find these answers and solve my problem. And they're working with me. And so these 3 drugs, docetaxel is one of them. And so I just want to run through, as we're talking about chemotherapy, I know a lot of people that listen to the show are starting to think differently about conventional treatments. Our first thought is, well, it's terrible, it's evil, it's poison. All it's going to do is hurt you, and it won't help you. But the reality is everything can hurt you and help you. All the herbs out there, the water you drink, the air you breathe. If you don't do it right, it can hurt you. If you do it right, it can help you. And these chemicals are no different. And I think that's an important element to this. What do you think, Robert?
Well, first of all, Joe, all the chemo you're getting has been tested on, well, probably hundreds of thousands of patients. Now, these are very established chemotherapy drugs. Very scientifically controlled clinical trials have been carried out with the drugs, each drug alone and in the combination you're getting. And they never could get approved without showing benefit. So surely, and you can just go on PubMed and read, and you'll see the millions of patients that have benefited from these drugs. The issue with cancer and why there is the flexibility that you're seeing is there's no one treatment that's far and away better than the other for most cancers, almost all. It's not a disease. It's not like you come in with a strep throat and they'll swab it and they'll see what antibiotic kills the bugs and give you the antibiotic. Cancer's not like that. It's much more complex, and we know much less how to treat it. You did your homework. You studied a lot. We discussed a lot. You came up with a combination of 3 drugs that have enormous experience with head and neck cancer, and you said I want to do this rather than the chemoradiation because I'm very worried about the dental side effects of radiation. I think any reasonable oncologist would have agreed with you. You didn't come in there and say, I'm going to use some herb and that has no scientific testing. You came in and wanted to do a drug combination in which there's been a huge experience. Okay, that's the way it works. And you got what you wished for. One, because you learned what you wanted to wish for.
Right.
And you did a lot of homework to do it. And this goes to show how important it is for each cancer patient to be their own advocate.
Absolutely.
Nobody else is going to be their advocate. The medical oncologist probably on their clinical day see 100 patients. They don't have time to be anybody's advocate.
Right.
You got to be your own advocate. You've got to study hard. And I feel sorry for the cancer patients who feel they just are going to be passive about it and let the doctor decide what they want based off of really reading their general guidelines, nothing individualized about it. So you did what I would hope most every cancer patient will do, the importance of doing your homework and seeing what's best for you. If she wanted to do chemoradiation, if you would have been a passive patient, we don't know how much radiation damage might have been done to your teeth or whatever.
Right.
We don't know.
Exactly.
And the good thing is we can always come back with radiation.
Right.
What you're having now is really, in my opinion, really neoadjuvant therapy.
Right.
Therapy before potential other therapy.
Mm-hmm.
If we take the example of Miss Hozumi on our Zoom call, she had neoadjuvant therapy and she went into remission.
Right.
And
we have that.
That was not the intent of the neoadjuvant therapy. That in her case was just to make her breast cancer metastases operable.
Right.
And the surgeon at the end still wanted to operate. She said, "What are you going to get out? It's all gone."
Right.
So I don't know if your tumor is going to be all gone, but it's going to have a good improvement. I think the chances of that are very, very high. Very high. Right. It's not a guarantee, but it's very high.
Yeah.
Then we can see, based on the extent, do we need some radiation, or are you now really a candidate for surgery?
Right.
Where do we stand?
Exactly.
So your experience, I think, is a great example for everybody. Study hard, and you can determine for yourself what you think is good for you. And the good thing is, doing all these chemos, the 3-drug chemo, doesn't prevent you from doing all the other things you like to do.
Exactly.
Methionine, low methionine diet, methionase, ivermectin,
oxygen therapy,
on and on.
Right.
All will help.
And the thing is there's a number of pieces to this. One is, as you were just mentioning, all these other things. When people think about that, the whole totality of what I'm doing is a giant stack of therapies. It's not one thing, it's not another thing. It's all the things together that make it work. And all the things that I'm doing to prepare my body for this, meaning the exercise I've done, the diet I've been on, the methionase I take. And in fact, I've even accelerated the amount I'm taking it. And thank God to the people that have supported. There's some fundraising going on. I've been able to do that. I'm going to be reordering again soon because I've been able to increase the amount I'm taking. And I know it's integral in this stack that is keeping me alive right now and ultimately saving my life. Doing the oxygen therapies, creating the ozonated glycerin and chlorine dioxide and the peroxide nebulizer, all these things I'm doing together. It's not one of them that's the answer. I drink soursop tea. I do all different things, but I can't take any one of them to say it's going to solve this. Even this chemotherapy, maybe had I not done all these things, the chemotherapy wouldn't have had the effect that it's going to have. But in doing it all, and maybe the piece on the top of this right now is the preparation for the chemotherapy. So I did the 72-hour fast, or fasting mimicking while taking the medical food to make sure that my body's not eating its own muscle and developing its own methionine. That was a strategy. This is a chess game. And I was thinking 4 moves in front that said, well, if I do this, there's a really good chance that the chemotherapy is going to work better and the side effects are going to be reduced. And guess what? I'm sitting here talking to you more than 48 hours after the chemotherapy. I have currently a pump
Almost
right here.
72, isn't it, Joe? 72?
Yeah, 72. I finished it. I finished the first infusion about 10 o'clock. Oh, no, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday. So now it's Thursday. Yeah, 72 hours. And
75, 76.
I have this pump here that's pushing the 5-fluorouracil into my body for the next day and a half. And that's a 5-day process. And the side effects, the immediate side effects to all of these are nausea and vomiting, fatigue, muscle pain, possible kidney problems, again, appetite loss. And you know what? I haven't had to take any of the nausea medication they gave me. I've been eating when I broke my fast. So the 72 hours ended at about 1 o'clock Tuesday morning. And so Tuesday morning, I broke fast, ate some fruit, slowly built my meal. But I had mild nausea. I'm not saying I've had no symptoms. Yesterday and the day before, I was a little bit woozy, a little bit wobbly, a little dizzy, but had a funny taste in my mouth, but not decommissioned. I've still been able to get around and do some things, and I've taken it super easy, resting most of the time. But you know what has happened? Already, it's only been a couple of days, and the pressure is released a little bit. And I was able to sleep last night for longer than I've slept in 3 months. And I haven't slept past 4 o'clock in the morning in 3-4 months. And I woke up at 6:30 this morning. And the last time I had woken up prior to that was probably about 2. So I got a solid 4.5 hours of sleep for the first time in 3 months as a result of all of these things that are happening. And today I've been up. This is the 3rd interview I've done today. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to talk at all. I was preparing for, the worst flu. I was preparing for, not being able to eat or drink. I was preparing for not being able to talk. I mean, all of these things. And I'm not saying there's going to be a progressive repercussion from this and the side effects don't all come at once. But typically from what I hear, the first couple of days after the first round are pretty rough. And I have not experienced that. And I'm confident that that is because of the work that I've done in the front to strengthen my body and to prepare through fasting and this diet that I'm on. I increased the methionine by double the 2 days prior to me doing this. So I said, I'm going to weaken these cancer cells as much as I can. I'm not going to feed them, and I'm going to strip that methionine out of my blood. And frankly, I think it worked.
It does work. You can feel it yourself.
And every time I talk to people, the other great thing that's happening right now, Robert, is partly because of your presence on this show and the continued growth of the show and me talking about this whole progress. I'm bringing information to people that need it. Yesterday, I had 2 cancer patients that reached out to me, one through an advocate, one directly through the show, and told me about their story. And I told them, I says, listen, I can tell you about what I'm doing for my cancer, and I can tell you how I'm finding these answers. I don't know what your cancer needs, but I know these things. And I know that if you start looking at this diet and taking these foods out of your diet, and if you start looking at these things, there's a few things I can tell you that I don't care what cancer it is, it will help you. And if I can cause you to start thinking in a different way and find some support, and I brought these people to the group on Sunday. I think we're going to have at least 1 new listener, maybe 2. But either way, whether they come next week or the month later or eventually, I'm putting this in people's hands. And now, because of this journey I've been on and working with you and some of the other doctors and the professionals, people are actually listening. And they're not just, another guy talking about his story, but it's actually a group of people trying to solve some very complex problems that affect millions of people. And it's working, Robert. It's working.
You bet. You bet, Joe.
So I just really, the for the people that are, as I was headstrong, I did not ever want anything to do with chemotherapy. I was the most advocate against it, but it was my own ignorance. I didn't know what I know today. And my belief that all the natural things were the only solution discounted the harm that the natural things can do. And when I started to open my mind and I read the book, The Structure of Scientific Revolution from Thomas Kuhn, and I keep mentioning that book because you mentioned it enough times to get me to read it. And it made enough sense that I says, wow, things aren't so simple as we like them to be. And frankly, our knowledge is so limited that we don't even know what we don't know. And when you start to understand that, you start to say, wow, maybe I should look at it a little better and maybe recognize that the things I don't want to see. I think a lot of studies have confirmation bias, and that's where we have to say, well, okay, I saw what I was trying to find in these statistics, but what else was there that I didn't look at? And when you start opening your mind to these things, where Dr. Castro came to me and said, this cannabis therapy that I was so sure was going to work, he says, you're hurting yourself. You're turning off switches that need to be on. And wow, the last thing in the world I wanted to hear was that. That was my plan. That's the plan I advocated for. I risked my freedom for, and it wasn't helping me. And I had to accept that and realize that, wow, it's more complicated than I ever thought. And I have to have an open mind because you know what? I want to live, and I want to live a quality of life that I deserve and a length of life that I deserve. And I want to do the things I want to do. And when given the question, what are you willing to do for it? My answer was whatever it takes. And I believe that that's what we're doing here. We're walking together, and people like you and Dr. Exume and Shahiro and Gene and all these people that have, you guys don't have to spend all this time helping people. You've got a business, you got things you could just do and make your money and go on about your way, but you dedicate huge amounts of time and energy to help people make their lives better and to help change this paradigm. And I feel like me being a part of this gives me a whole nother level of meaning into the work I've been doing all my life. And I just really want to thank you for that.
Well, it's my mission, and I couldn't think. There's nothing else I'd want to do.
Well, I look forward to spending a lot more time. I look forward to being on the other side of this and being able to help without having to do all of this work to heal myself. And
Well, you're sure going to be.
I know it's coming soon. I feel like we're just about ready to push this thing down. I felt there's then a little relief of pressure around my jawbone, around the neck, and that was starting to rebuild. And getting the sleep that I've gotten, I think that is going to be paramount in the healing. and I'm staying strict to the diet. I'm following the protocols. I'm doing everything, and as long as I don't have to take those nausea drugs, that's great. It's only taking them as needed. They're not helping me in any other way. So I feel like
That's fantastic, Joe.
I'm in the best place I could be right now, and I'm just really looking forward to the next steps of this.
All right. You're going to have a lot more to tell us next week.
Absolutely. All right, Robert. Well, thank you as always for being part of this.
And
And
thank you for having me, Joe. And congratulations on your progress and what you're doing and what you're sharing. It's great.
awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for all the support. And remember the link to the Sunday, 4:00 p.m. conference call that we do on our Zoom. It's a 2-hour call. You can come in for a minute, 10 minutes, an hour, the whole time. You can be anonymous. You can share your story. It's really no requirements or restrictions, but it's an amazing group of people that have an amazing wealth of knowledge and experience. And I have gained more from this than any one resource I can imagine, including PubMed. I've gotten a lot of PubMed resource from this group, but in my own research, I think this has been the most impactful step that I've taken in getting knowledge.
That's great, Joe. I agree with you. Me too. I
Awesome.
learned more from the patients than I learned from anything else.
Well, Robert, I will talk to you next Sunday. To everybody else, I thank you, and we'll
Okay, thank you, Joe. See you soon.
see you
Take
next
care
time.
with your chemo.
You bet. All right. Take care.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.